So the biggest lie about Carl Jung is that he didn't follow a concise methodology, that he didn't have a step-by-step to perform psychotherapy, and he basically invented things out of nowhere. And that's why in this video I'll break down what Jungian analysis entails, and I will give you a step-by-step. And if you're interested in Jungian psychology, learning more about Carl Jung's methods and shadow integration, you can join my newsletter down below, because I will send you a copy of my book Pistis, Demystifying Jungian Psychology. So now let's get into it. So a curious thing keeps happening with some of my clients. After a few sessions, maybe 4, 5 or even 6 sessions, they will come to me and say, hey, I really would like to try shadow integration or dealing with the animus and anima. And that's the moment I have to stop them and say, but that's exactly what we've been doing all along. And then they look at me completely puzzled, like, really? That's what we've been doing. And that's the moment I have to explain a few things. So first of all, the term shadow is simply a word that refers to what is unconscious. So this means that when we look at dreams, exploring the deeper layer of feelings, beliefs, what's behind their patterns of behaviors, where we are already integrating the shadow, exploring the unconscious. The problem is that there's a lot of weird stuff out there, and people imagine that Carl Jung's methods involve doing visualizations, feeling prompts, activating archetypes, or drawing mandalas, which is all nonsense and quite frankly a scam. So that's why in this video I'll explain what Jungian analysis truly entails. So Jungian psychology operates with the basic premise that the psyche is dynamic, and that the relationship between conscious and unconscious is compensatory and complementary. So that said, Carl Jung's method relies on 3 steps. First, diagnosing the conscious attitude. Second, mapping shadow complexes, aka patterns of behavior. And finally, trying to understand what the unconscious is trying to compensate. So let's break this down. So conscious attitude is the most important concept in Jungian psychology. And it's basically someone's modus operandi. So it's a sum of their belief system, core values, and individual predispositions. And all of these elements comprise a cosmovision, and from it derive all of their patterns of behavior. But this conscious attitude has 3 layers. The first will be these individual elements. But on a foundational level, Jung also adds the psychological types, so the typological method, and an eros or logos orientation. So the first one, the psychological types, will have a few elements. First of all, introversion and extroversion, and also a main psychological function. 4 of them. We have thinking, feeling, sensation, and intuition. So this means that an individual will have an introverted or extroverted orientation paired with one of these functions: thinking, feeling, sensation, and intuition. And then we have another layer. Now, Carl Jung was the first psychologist to explore the differences between the male and the female psyche. So in his view, men have a conscious mind identified with the logos principle, while women have a conscious mind identified with the eros principle. So this basically means that men and women operate in slightly different ways, and this is important to diagnose the conscious attitude. So let's recap. In summary, the conscious attitude involves individual predispositions and then an introverted or extroverted orientation paired with one of the 4 psychological functions: thinking, feeling, sensation, and intuition, and an eros or logos identification. When you have all of these elements combined, then you can truly diagnose someone's conscious attitudes, patterns of behavior, and their main tendencies. Now, the conscious attitude acts by selecting, directing, and excluding. And once again, the relationship between conscious and unconscious is compensatory and complementary. So this is a long way of saying that everything that is incompatible with the values of the conscious attitude will be relegated to the unconscious, or simply remain unconscious because it can't come to the surface. So everything that our conscious mind judges as bad, negative, or inferior will form our personal shadow. And once again, the shadow is just a word and a concept that refers to what is unconscious. So now let's move to the second step, mapping patterns of behavior. So in the unconscious, all of these elements take the form of complexes and archetypes, and they're constantly trying to compensate and balance the conscious attitude. So Jung says that complexes and archetypes evoke patterns of behavior, and they are the architects of the psyche and every symptom. So these complexes are the main elements of the personal shadow. The animus and anima are also complexes, and they are responsible for deeply ingrained relationship patterns. And finally, the psychological types reveal our deepest psychological tendencies, and they are also perceived as complexes by the conscious mind. Now, during dreams and active imagination, all of these different complexes come alive because they become the elements, landscapes, and dream characters. And if you understand how these different complexes and archetypes operate, you can basically understand how a person is wired, what's behind their symptoms, and what's the best path for healing and integration. So as an analyst, this framework is so valuable because it helps you map patterns faster and with greater precision. And this will help you to choose the right interventions to ensure progress. So now let's put all of these elements together. Now, the final step is understanding what the unconscious is trying to compensate. And as I mentioned a few times, we operate with the basic premise that the psyche is dynamic. So this means that after we can accurately diagnose someone's conscious attitude, we can better understand what lies in their unconscious. And here's a basic example. So one of the most common trauma responses is high levels of perfectionism. But when you start digging and asking questions, you quickly understand that this is a compensation for feelings of shame, inadequacy, and inferiority. Because symptoms are always compensating for something. And when you understand that the psyche is dynamic, once more, you can understand what lies in the unconscious. So when you bring typology as well, you know that if someone has a more extroverted nature, introversion will be unconscious, and vice versa. If someone has thinking tendencies, this means that feeling will be unconscious and vice versa. And finally, intuitive types will have an inferior and unconscious sensation and vice versa. And lastly, the same thing will happen with the eros or logos. If one is in the conscious mind, this means that the other will be unconscious. And as an analyst, you always have to pay attention how these opposite and complementary elements are playing with one another. What is their relationship? If it's something that is harmonious or not. Because the process of integration always involves bringing what's repressed to the conscious awareness so the conscious attitude can reach harmony again. And this is key because we can't directly influence the unconscious. But by transforming our relationship with the shadow and repressed elements, we can positively influence the dynamics between our conscious and unconscious minds. And lastly, Carl Jung's analytical method relied heavily on dream analysis. And one important reason why is because Carl Jung understood that the nature of the unconscious is to be personified. So this means that all of these different elements, complexes, and archetypes, they will take shape and form in the unconscious, and they will become, again, the landscapes and dream characters in our fantasies, imagination, and during dreams. And the simplest way to understand the action of complexes is in terms of narratives. And once again, dreams have a clear way of uncovering these narratives. So here's a simple example. So once a client of mine dreamed he was sleeping with his mother and she suddenly kicked him out of bed. And now he feels sad and cries because she doesn't recognize that she hurt him. So it's interesting, but in 5 minutes I know exactly what's causing problems and how to proceed. So this dream reveals a strong and negative mother complex and a poor Eternus identification and his attitude about this problem. Because instead of taking responsibility for creating his own life, he's still blaming his mother. And that's why he feels lost, stuck, and incapable of maintaining romantic relationships. So it's amazing how often dream interpretation is faster than talk therapy alone, because important information isn't available to conscious awareness due to defense mechanisms. So instead of guessing what's happening and spending several weeks gathering information, dreams clearly reveal the complexes at play. And this is how Jung's methods allows you to be a more precise therapist. And if you want to understand his methods in depth, you can check my next video.